Okay, it's time for the Bcast on thebcast.com, and right now also on theblaze.com. Scott Baker here, managing editor of The Blaze. And a special edition today because we've got Governor Bobby Jindal on the line. I believe if I've plugged this together, he may be there now. Governor, can you hear me?
Scott, I can hear you well. Thank you so much for having me on your show today.
Absolutely. And did I could have misheard, but I swear when you were on the radio with Glenn Beck a couple of weeks ago, you were saying some nice things about this website, theblaze.com, and I could have misheard it, but I swear I heard you saying that.
You absolutely did. I'm so excited to see y'all launch this. I think it's a wonderful source for conservative, mainstream, common sense views. And I encourage folks to visit theblaze.com. I think it's a great contribution. You know what's wonderful today with the technology? People have so many new ways to get news, analysis, commentary. You don't just have to passively see what the mainstream media sends you. And I think theblaze.com is a great contribution to the public discourse. So congratulations. And, you know, like you, I was a former head of a college Republicans when I was in college. So I'm a very big fan of not only theblaze.com, but I'm very impressed with your background as well.
So apparently the large check that I sent down to your office did cash then, right?
we haven't cashed it yet, but we got it in hand.
All right. Well, we only have a couple of minutes with you here today, and I want to make sure that we get right to all of the important questions. We have a live chat going on right now, and so we may get some viewer questions to slip in here, but just in time for the Christmas season, for people still trying to think of what to get Dad maybe for Christmas, Leadership and Crisis is the name of the book that you have out, and you've certainly have demonstrated both parts of that, leadership and how to handle crisis. A lot of politicians write books or have them written for them, and they just kind of read like position statements. This one has a life to it that I think is a little bit different. I think that people will really enjoy. How is this book, in your mind, different from books other politicians have written?
Well, thank you, Scott. Well, a couple of things. One, look, a lot of times people write books to put out, like you said, policy platforms because they're running for president or something. I made it very clear I'm not running for president. I wrote this book because I'm a father of 3 young children, and I worry about the future of our country. I'm a firm believer in American exceptionalism. I disagree with the president when he said that he was asked that question. Instead of affirming America's unique place in history, he kind of waffled on the question. I'm a firm believer in American exceptionalism, but I do worry, I think we're at an inflection point with all the taxes, borrowing, and spending going on in D.C. that has to stop. Secondly, yes, it has policies and talks about education and immigration and energy and the war on terrorism, provides a conservative approach to some of the big challenges facing our country, but it also shares some personal experiences as well. So I hope the reader gets to know a little bit more about me in terms of, we had a child born at home and another child that had open heart surgery before he was 3 months old. And I talk from a personal perspective why I'm opposed to Obamacare and why I worry about the federal government getting between us and our doctors. And then finally, I know something that you and others have talked a lot about. I talk about the Founding Fathers' original view of how they expected our federal government to operate. I've got a whole chapter in the book entitled, do we really want to become like Europe? And one of the things that I talk about is that yes, there are huge fiscal challenges facing this country, and we can't borrow or tax our way to prosperity, but there's also cultural issues. We really have to decide what makes America so great. It has been in part our culture, has been in part our rugged self-determinism, this idea that we don't look to the government to do everything for us. And I think we're at a very important inflection point. There are some on the left that want us to all view ourselves as victims. They want us to view ourselves as having some grievance. The government needs to protect us from everything that life brings our way. And I write there that I recall what the Founding Fathers said, that a government big enough to give you everything is big enough to take everything away from you. And so I think this book is a little different in that it's not just a list of policy platforms, but actually gets into the issues and what's behind the issues. And again, I write it as a full optimist. I completely believe that our best days are ahead of us, not behind us. But I think we've got important generational decisions we need to make right now.
Let me, when you talk about American exceptionalism, I want to follow up on that because you not only write from a position as a political thinker, but there's also a theological journey here as well. And I know we've heard and discussed often here in Beckland views of not only the president, but advisors to the president like Jim Wallace, who are very adamant that God has not specially blessed America more than other nations. When you talk about American exceptionalism, how do you view sort of divine providence in that? And do you think that God had a special blessing on this country as part of that exceptionalism, or is it just a matter of the American spirit that you were talking about?
Well, absolutely. And I've got two different chapters that touch on that. One, I talk about my own faith journey. I'm a convert to Christianity, and I talk about how that has played such a tremendously important role in my life. But I also do talk about, in fact, in the second chapter about immigration, about how American values are what set us apart. What makes America so great, it doesn't matter whether you've been here 100 hours or 100 years. It doesn't matter what your last name is. It doesn't matter your ethnicity. What makes America so great, we don't necessarily share all those same traits. We do share a commitment to certain American values. It's not politically correct to say that. You know, that the left will try to tell you, well, we shouldn't be for assimilation. That's nonsense. People want to come to America. They should embrace American values. I do think America is exceptional. When they asked the president this, he said, well, I'm proud of my country the way the British and the Greeks are proud of theirs. That's nonsense. You know, he had a chance to reaffirm American exceptionalism. I do think we've been blessed, and I do think that this is not necessarily inevitable. And so it's important, you know, we're not blessed despite the choices we've made. I do think it's providential. I do think the Founding Fathers have created something special with their view of democracy, limited government, self-determination, and I think this freedom is a gift from God. But I also think that we've got to continue and preserve what has made America so great, and that is our culture. I've got a whole chapter saying it's the culture, stupid. You know, remember that brilliant political phrase, it's the economy, stupid, back that elected Bill Clinton president. Right. You know, I love the fact that we're a free market economy. I believe in that. I love the fact we're a democracy. I love the fact we've got a strong military. That's not what makes America great. What essentially makes America great is our culture. The Founding Fathers got it right when they said, in their words, they were creating a country that was going to work for a virtuous, for a moral, for a religious people. They knew what they were doing. And so I do think we've been blessed. I think we will continue to be blessed, but I don't think it's inevitable. I don't think as we move farther and farther away from the Founding Fathers' vision, we shouldn't be surprised that we turn more and more like other European countries, these social democracies that are, and I write pretty provocatively, in some cases they're managing their declines. They're just carving up that pie into smaller and smaller pieces. I don't think that should be our fate, and I don't think that's what we're going to leave behind for our children. Every generation of Americans has inherited more from our parents than they inherited from theirs. We want to leave more for our children than we inherited from our parents. Let's not become the first generation that doesn't do that because we borrow $14 trillion, that because we're going to the Chinese, because we're raising taxes, because we think government is the answer to all of our problems. I think that I've got a lot more confidence in the Founding Fathers than I do in the current members of Congress, the current administration, the folks that happen to be in D.C. today, or the folks that happen to sit on the bench, by the way.
I think I've got about 2 minutes with you, so I'm going to get to one question that's come in. I think it's a question about ideology and practicality, and it was phrased this way. I'll just read it as it came in from Bobby. If higher taxes and increased government spending actually stimulated the economy significantly more than lower taxes and limited government, would you still favor lower taxes and limited government?
Yes, and two things. One, I absolutely, empirically, objectively do not believe that higher taxes and spending stimulates the economy.
Okay,
I think that you go back to the days of Kennedy, Reagan, and George Bush. You cut taxes. We cut them in Louisiana. Our economy has done better than the national and the southern averages. But here's why. The second, I think it's a great philosophical question here. I absolutely believe that the more spending and taxing the government does, the less freedom we've got. I do think, and that's, again, I write that in the book. I know that's provocative. I think the larger the government is, the more of our money that it takes, the more that it spends, the less freedom we have to decide how to live our own lives. And so, yes, we believe in lower taxes because we believe objectively it grows the economy and the private sector is more efficient. But we also believe in less government spending because we think individuals should be allowed to live their own lives and make their own decisions. And I think that's an essential part of the freedom that we as Americans cherish. So I think it's a great question because it gets to the point that it's not just macroeconomics. It's not just Keynesian versus supply-side debate. It really is about a fundamental philosophical view of the world. I think the American people should be left to decide how to run their own lives, not the federal government.
All right, two really fast exit questions. Should Michael Steele be reelected to his position?
Look, I've said there's so much discussion about who's going to be the RNC chairman, who's going to be the Republican nominee for president. As a Republican Party, we need to focus on our message, not the messenger. We got fired 4 years ago from the majority, not because of who our nominees or who our candidates were, but because Republicans were defending earmarks and spending and corruption we never would have tolerated in the other side. I think what's more important today, and I don't get involved. I'll let all the RNC folks decide who the RNC head is. I don't get involved in all that stuff. But what I think is more important, now we've been given temporary power in the House. If we start defending the same kind of earmarks, same kind of spending, if we become Democrat light, we're going to lose power again. The voters are going to say, we've had enough of that. We elected you to get something done up there. So, you're going to have a million folks ask, who's going to be the nominee, who's running, who's not running. Let's stop worrying about that. Let's worry about how do we repeal Obamacare? How do we cut those taxes? How do we cut that spending? Not how do we freeze it? How do we cut it?
Last thing, everybody always asks you if you're running for president. You always say no. How does the title vice president sound to you?
Look, I want to be governor of the state of Louisiana. It's the best job in the world, but we do need strong, conservative, principled leadership in this country. And I believe I'm biased towards people who've run organizations, who've been governors or CEOs of businesses. They balance budgets. One of the things about this president, he's got fewer people who've worked in the private sector around him than either even Presidents Carter or Clinton. I think it's one of the reasons he makes some of the decisions he's made that have hurt our economy so badly.
Leadership and Crisis is the name of the book. Bobby Jindal is the author. He is the governor of Louisiana. We're so happy that you've joined us here on the Blaze, on the BCast. And look, and you just had Glenn Beck down there and survived that. So
we fed him well. I think he had a great time down here. He had a huge audience in the New Orleans Arena. Him and Bill O'Reilly, they did a phenomenal job.
We appreciate it. You're welcome back to post on the Blaze or join us on the BCast anytime.
Scott, thank you for having me. Y'all have a great day and a Merry Christmas.
Indeed. Thank you, sir. Governor Bobby Jindal, we have had a fine time talking to him, and we did a little for everybody watching normally here on the BCast. Liz Stevens joins me right at the top of the broadcast. She was busy helping to run the technical end of that. Now I've gone back to the two-shot, and there she magically appears. Do you have your mic on? Let me get your mic.
I have it on. You just need to make sure it's up.
Let me make sure. I'll switch back here. I can hear everything. Test?
Test, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, yeah, you're good.
All right.
Totally good. Totally good. All right.
Just wanted to make sure we could actually hear the governor. I figured that would probably be positive.
I believe so. Hopefully that went well. He had to get to a budget meeting by 4:15, so they wanted me to be done by 4:10. I think I went to 4:12. So I don't know that I'm going to be.
You know, give him an inch.
Right. That's what happens.
Make a mile.
It's what happens. Huh. And I know, and I got to. When you have 10 minutes, that's the problem. I got one question in. I couldn't. I set my reading glasses down. I couldn't get to the watch ones in chat. And I know you were trying to get me to ask something right at the end, but I knew I only had like 45 seconds, and I wanted to get in the question about vice president.
Starting 4 minutes out was like poking you, trying to get you to ask a question, but it's okay.
Yeah. So
obviously my question.
What did you want to know? You know, then we can posit what we think Bobby Jindal would answer.
I really was just curious about his. I mean, if you look at the idea that if a lot of us believe, including myself, that Democrats, maybe not all of them,
right.
But the progressives at least have a bigger plan. And you look at Soros and Van Jones and Obama and what's going on. So my question is, it seems like Obama's a little too eager to pass this tax deal.
So something must be up.
And so, and all of a sudden, you know, they always say the longer that people have time to stir on something and think about it and realize what's in it, the harder it is to pass. Right? So here's Obama taking on his party, and like some people say, oh, he's just trying to look centrist and kind of pull a Bill Clinton, and then he literally pulls Bill Clinton into the podium and leaves him there to play president for 30 minutes. But you look at all of that. So what I'm curious about is how much are people, you know, in Washington buying this idea of like, oh, well, here it's a semblance of trying to look bipartisan, and we're trying to work together, and that, you know, that's the message of the last election, which isn't what a lot of Democrats are actually saying, right? And they're like, oh, people aren't worried about spending and everything they did. They're just like, yeah, they just want us to like concentrate on jobs. But it wasn't a criticism of how we did, you know, handle things with the stimulus package or anything else. So you look at that, and I'm just curious what the mood is on Capitol Hill, because you obviously after November, people are somewhat jubilant that the Republicans managed to have like this bloodbath in the House and take back 60 plus seats. I think it ended up at 63, if I'm not mistaken. So like you have that, you have, you know, greater gains in the Senate. What are they actually thinking is going on right here with the posturing of Democrats, and why? I mean, it would look bad for maybe momentarily for Republicans to be like, we're walking away from this tax deal, which adds to the deficit, which has all this other pork in it now. And we ran on this idea of being fiscally responsible and cutting the deficit and cutting the budget and you know, smaller government. So in the end, why didn't they just wait until January when they were better positioned, and then they could go back and say, okay, we'll just retroactively make these tax rates as of January 1. Right? So it just seems to me like it's just like something smells about this whole situation right now, and I can't figure out, all of it. But why not just do that? Why not just say, we have much better leverage come January. We obviously don't want tax rates to go up, but hey, we're going to be able to work, on this. And
this is all you wanted to know from Bobby Jindal?
Yeah,
that's all?
It. That's really it. But anyway, I just want to know if he's actually buying what's going on in D.C. And does he think it's smart of Republicans to pass this compromise with President Obama ahead of January?
Okay.
Or would it have been smarter to say, we're holding our ground, we're more fiscally responsible, we're going to cut the pork. We have very strong feelings about unemployment benefits and how these should be run in the estate tax and whatnot.
Well, they had to make some
smarter
decision.
for them to wait.
Well, they couldn't really wait because they were expiring. So they were. It was.
Yes, but what I'm saying is they could have expired, and then they say they just make it retroactive to January 1.
Well, I suppose.
Right. And then you look at Krauthammer was on Fox last night saying that he thinks there is some deal, even though you can't prove it, that Republicans said if this happens, then we'll bring the START treaty. Then we'll go ahead and pass the START treaty and everything else. I mean, there's a lot of wheeling and dealing going on, and something's not right. Something's not right.
All right. Well, you're watching the Bcast on the Bcast.com live show from the studio here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and you can get a hold of us in all of the requisite ways. The email is thebcast@gmail.com, thebcast@gmail.com. The instant message is Bcast Live, Bcast Live. You can join us there, and you can also follow us Twitter at the Bcast, follow the Blaze, Twitter at the Blaze, and we have a lot to plow through here in the back half of the show. And
somebody in chat just said, that's weird to hear. Obama's hoping for Bubba's charm to rub off on him. Wasn't Obama Charisma King just a couple of years ago?
Yes, yes. And somebody in chat said that said that Liz looks like an MSNBC anchor today. And I didn't know if it was the curly hair or the leatherish
I'm gonna have
jacket.
to go. I might have to shave my head or do something like Sinead O'Connor. I can't have that. That's like the worst insult you can.
I know. I don't think they. What? I don't think they meant it.
Oh my gosh! Wait a minute. That means they've actually been watching MSNBC, or are they just talking about clips they've seen on the show? Because I guarantee you, there are only 8 people in this country that are actually watching MSNBC at this point.
Right. Okay. I didn't want.
It was John Seidel. I think it was Blaze editor John Seidel.
I don't recall at this moment exactly who it was, but all right.
Ouch.
All right. Anyway. Now, I thought, look, you had.
Jeff said I look like a Fox News anchor. Thank you.
Okay. No.
Better now. Oh, I'm not blonde.
Right. What are you talking about? There
are like 2 people who are
Name them. Name them.
Very good point. Well, who was the woman that sat in on America's Newsroom yesterday morning?
Oh shoot, I can't remember.
Yeah. See.
I haven't met
That's
that many.
one.
I haven't met that many. I've been over there, but but Glenn's studio, is no longer in the,
Well, wait, Bill O'Reilly's a brunette and Sean Hannity's a brunette.
Yes, you're right.
Does that count?
Yeah, I guess it does.
Grasping for straws here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew Ainsley Earhart when she was in college.
Didn't she go to one of your seminars?
She did. Okay, so
now we have more questions coming in.
I'm sure. And look, my point was, and I was happy to focus on the book. I did want to ask about the Michael Steele thing, just because it's right out there, right? And I thought the vice president question, I figured I'd get the same answer. As the president one, is I've been governor of Louisiana, and it's my favorite job.
But you thought maybe if you asked it quickly enough, that he might slip up and give a response. And I remember, and you notice I just did the little. So how does that sound? The title of vice president sound? Just because I thought maybe that would, but it was. So anyway, no, I do think that the book. I recommend the book, and I think that. He does hit the really important issues of this era of entitlement, and these ideas of American exceptionalism and how we define that and what it means and how we can sort of pull the culture back from this slide to sort of a European. They're saying in chat, Liz looks fine, Scott. Let her talk.
Go ahead.
No, because if I start talking, you're going to do that irritating thing where you start just right in. And then he's going to start showing moobs, and if you don't know what a moob is, then you missed a very historic B-cast a couple months ago for the moob of it all. Ask Victor Victim if he's in chat. And the rest of the B-chatters, they'll explain the moob.
Didn't Victor send you something yesterday?
He did. He was saying that our lighting was a little bit bright yesterday. It made you look like you were going gray, so he had sent his own version of Just for Men for you.
Oh, okay.
Might have to. I'll grab that.
Grab that.
I can show that.
Yeah. I was tweaking some cameras yesterday. It's very weird, and not that you need to bother with this watching the BCast right now, but this camera is in a dark corner, and it's been hard to adjust the exposure, and my Kino Flow lights here.
Okay, my only problem with Just for Scott is you look completely like John Edwards. It's in the folder. You have to show it now.
Hold on.
He does. He looks like John Edwards in this picture. Tell me it's not true when you see it.
Camera
he doesn't
is on
look
you.
like they doesn't look like John Edwards.
Hold on, I gotta.
They're saying ouch and barf in chat. I know, but wait till you see the picture. I think he squished Scott a little bit. He does look like John Edwards. Do you not look like you? Even you have to admit that you look like John Edwards in that shot.
Yeah, it does.
You totally do.
Yeah.
Pink wants to know it was an $800 haircut.
It might, yeah, probably. And suddenly I see two Americas.
They're saying it is John Edwards, and they want to know if it's real. But no, but it could be if anybody from the Just for Men company is watching.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right.
You too could be on the box.
Okay, so we're done with all of that part, the hair discussion.
Can we get an exclusive?
I wanted to be gray. I wanted to be gray. My dad was entirely silver by the time he was 30.
Well, you're almost there.
Because back when I was a TV news anchor, I thought that would help me. But maybe I could go dye my hair more gray.
Anyway, okay.
That's my point. Is these are tungsten lights. These are daylight fluorescents, and so having a little conflict, and we're trying to solve that out. So let's get to Michael Steele. How about that?
He's not going anywhere, people. At least not.
No, he ain't going
now.
anywhere.
Sorry.
I ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm here. Look, we have too much work to do. The focus and why I'm here with the chairman and why this fight is so important to me is, I said it before, there are real differences between the way the President, Nancy Pelosi, and Harry Reid look at America, look at its future, look at its potential. I happen to think we are exceptional. I happen to think we are exceptional people. Not to the detriment of anyone else, but we just are in our own uniquely American way.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like Bobby Jindal there. Exceptional. I'm curious. I don't have a dog in the fight, and I'm just we'll be interested to see how it all plays out.
When was the last time you heard anything that Michael Steele has said when you were like, wow, not wow? Because really, it's always kind of like, wah, wah, like, ooh, he did. I mean, I'm sure he said plenty of things that didn't sound inane, except we never hear about any of those.
I know a lot of people criticize the spending and the fundraising and all the rest of that. I guess in a large part, I feel like the party, it's like the head of the political party to me should just be out there organizing. We should not be hearing from them a lot anyway. Right? You're not elected to anything. You're not passing laws. And so you can be a cheerleader for your party, but I think just go do your job.
But can you rap and do it?
Maybe.
And do hip hop.
Yeah. So we had Jindal on now, and I think that Bobby Jindal does want to be president. I think he may feel like he's got a lot of time to position for that. And he's made it a very effective, substantive comeback from the disastrous speech, right? Because everybody can give a bad speech, and I think it's like he's got to be like, all right, I need people to take me seriously. And it wasn't that. I mean, it was just remember this. You remember the speech, right? Where he gave it. It was like, And he's been great about joking about it, just like Bill Clinton was when he went on the Tonight Show. So I think that this was a smart move. I think the book for him is a good thing. I think whether he runs this time doesn't so much matter as what it positions him. I think he is perfectly positioned to be a great vice presidential pick if he doesn't want to run for president. And maybe that's the smartest thing, because I think he would be great on a ticket and then become president after that.
Be interesting to see who ends up where.
So I have the other ones that are out there talking today, though, are Tim Pawlenty is one of the other ones on the list.
Taking on unions.
And he's taking on the unions.
Well, a new warning now from a possible GOP candidate for the 2012 presidential race. Outgoing Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty bringing new attention to public employee unions, calling them a silent coup and urging lawmakers to rein in the unions that he says are draining taxpayers dry. Take a listen.
Their post-retirement benefits and salaries and pensions are really one of the driving forces of the financial troubles of cities and counties and school districts and states all across this country,
right.
And it needs to stop.
Well, Stu Varney is with the Fox Business Network, the host of Varney and Company. And Stu, are they just an easy target?
No.
Public employee units?
Governor Pawlenty is right. He is describing what may be the next financial crisis to hit the United States. Namely, states are insolvent, in many cases largely because of the extraordinary pensions and health benefits which we have guaranteed to retired state workers. The municipal unions have one of the most lavish pension and health benefits for retirement of any group in our society. The bill is due now. We don't have the money. They won't do givebacks. Crisis is upon us.
Pawlenty is saying these have to be changed. These benefits packages have to be changed.
Yep.
And you're saying that the unions are saying no. I got to tell you, as somebody who used to practice law, if I'm hired to represent the unions, I say, you struck the deal, state government. Too bad on you. If you don't like it now, you have buyer's remorse after the fact and say you can't afford it. Too bad. That's what contracts are for.
Yes.
You should have struck a better deal first time around. My union people shouldn't have to pay for it now.
Correct on all counts. You sign the contract. Contract law says you live up to the terms
Right.
of that contract. So pay up. Okay, fair enough. If we do pay up, where does that money come from? It comes from other social services, like health care for children, like education. That makes the unions
But if I'm the unions,
unpopular.
but if I'm the union, I say, don't blame me, union. You
Yeah.
blame the state government.
Yeah.
Blame the people who are supposed to be looking out for you. I am supposed to be looking out for my union members if I'm negotiating on their behalf. The state government is supposed to be looking out for the taxpayers. I did my job as the union chief. They didn't do their job as the state governors. And why do I now have to bend on a deal I have in writing?
Because if you don't, you push the state towards insolvency.
I push the state, or the lawmakers who cut the deal, who were responsible for looking out for the taxpayers, they push the state towards insolvency.
The lawmakers who made the deal pushed them towards this difficult, very difficult crisis state.
But that's
You've
my
got a
point. So now the unions have a right to cry hypocrisy, because now the state lawmakers are saying the unions bled us dry. And if I'm the union, I'm saying no one forced you to agree to it.
And that's true. But unless you go back in time and look at how those contracts were won in the first place, they were won against politicians who, when standing for a vote, were heavily influenced by the union vote. You could say that in some circumstances, local unions manipulated local elections, got the guy in who they wanted in, and then forced them to make a deal which later on we couldn't pay.
The poor, weak politicians they took the union's money and then they sold out the taxpayer to benefit the unions. Once again, yes, you can blame the unions if you want, but isn't it the lawmakers who cut those deals who really need to be accountable to these state citizens?
Okay, yes, that was a generation ago. Now what are you going to do? You've got the crisis that is upon you. You either get a bailout from the federal government or somebody else, or you have the most dramatic cuts in social services that you have ever seen. You want to send your child to a school where there are 60 kids in a class? It's coming. You want to decimate your police department, fire half of them? It's coming, if the unions will not have any givebacks.
Yeah, and we're seeing some of that happen in New Jersey. I mean, that's the problem. If you have a normal contract...
All right, so she mentions New Jersey, and there is a new James O'Keefe video out today, and we'll be playing that at the break.
We are.
So pay attention
stick around,
for that.
before the loop.
But Chris Christie has obviously been taking everybody on, teacher union-wise there in New Jersey. And
what do you think the odds are he runs?
I
mean,
he's
everybody's saying
thing,
no,
right.
no. But they all say no. Obama said no, he wasn't going to run.
Yeah, the only one saying
do.
yes is Newt Gingrich, and he's telling everybody yes.
Well, and then Romney keeps, coming out of the woodwork to
Right.
say this, that, and the other about what he thinks about the tax deal and everything. So, Romney's thinking about it, but
Right.
is Christie in or out? Because if he can take on the unions in New Jersey, think about what we could do in Washington.
Oh no, it'd be remarkable. But the truth is, he's too fat to get elected.
We know
he's not
that.
He's got American people aren't going to vote.
But not if we got Acorn on his side, and
right.
Acorn could go and just fill out some extra ballots.
Right? Maybe I'm saying maybe if he just ate a few, maybe if he ate a few acorns, if he went a little Yul Gibbons on us, that might.
If Mickey and Minnie and the rest of the Disney gang would also vote for him like they did for Obama, I think that maybe he could pull it out.
Well, the Blaze did push a great deal of the attention on this issue of who was attacking Chris Christie's weight. It was Liz Stevens who noted the Mark Lamont Hill clips from the Fox station in Philadelphia a few weeks ago. We put those up. I think we were the first, other than the station where it aired, I think we were probably the first ones to put that up. And it became a thing. I mean, it was, in fact, Lamont Hill was like...
he said he's too black to be president.
Right.
Or he's too Indian to be president.
Right.
Or, anything like that. Oh, they're too Jewish to be president. I mean, none of that would fly. But since when is it okay to say, you can't be racist, but it's okay if we're taking this idea of stereotyping people and when it comes to weight.
Right.
Well, then, obviously, could be president.
And then, of course, we got the follow-up from Chris Matthews here over the weekend with the Moon over New Jersey comment. And so Kavuda went on something of a tear at the end of his show yesterday.
This is a good rant.
Here we go.
Not skinny? Well, fat chance you will ever get a break, especially if you're a Republican. A certain media icon named Chris, that's all I'm going to say, going after a certain New Jersey governor named Chris, as in Chris Christie, that's what I will say. Not over things that matter, but something that should not. The governor's weight. At a Q&A held at the Ritz-Carlton in Washington recently, Media Chris says of Governor Chris that he, and I quote, should not wear white shirts.
I'm going to go to the Blaze. I'm going to load this.
Let's see what happens if I click back to it.
Goes on to say the gov must be 300.
That doesn't work. I will just play it over here.
And there's no rhyme or reason why some of those clips go to the gray look.
It's a 15-second pre-roll, and I'm going to spare you from that while I...
Do I have this audio?
You do?
Is it audio on there?
Just check and make sure that the audio is assigned. I think I did do that, but I'm going to figure that out while we have the 15-second pre-roll going. Good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it this one right here? Or is it this one up here?
It's this one.
All right.
Okay, we are set.
You did have it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I checked the other one. All right, so that's a go. No audio. Oh, wait, hold on.
That's all I'm going to say.
Got it.
Going after a certain New Jersey governor named Chris, as in Chris Christie, that's what I will say. Not over things that matter, but something that should not. The governor's weight. At a Q&A held at the Ritz-Carlton in Washington recently, Media Chris says of Governor Chris that he, and I quote, should not wear white shirts. Goes on to say the gov must be 300+ pounds, that it's something he's just got to deal with because, and I quote, you're not going to say, I'm going to cut the budget. Well, how about starting with supper and other such cheap shots? Well, Media Chris, how about you starting with facts? Like the fact this so-called fat governor has cut the budget. I live in Jersey, so I should know. Balancing it his very first year, all by cutting out the fat you abhor without the tax increase you might favor. Look, Media Chris, just because you could dye your hair doesn't mean you could dye the truth. Because here's the skinny on this fat guy. He's eating his critics alive and putting his very fit and skinny predecessor, John Corzine, to shame. Because while Mr. Corzine might have cut a very fine form, he never cut spending and ballooned the state deficit while eating up every last taxpayer dollar. It is remarkable to me that those who delight in pointing out someone's girth as if it is some disqualifier for office say not a word about their party's own heavyweights and never even suggest their weight is a disqualifier for any office. No, Chris Christie's fat and Haley Barbour weighs too much. I say way too much. Would Media Chris have said the same of Winston Churchill? Would he be so focused on the guy's gut to miss the guy's guts? So concerned Winston wasn't GQ that he'd miss Winston's weighty IQ? No, not a clue. All I know is a lot of thin, fit guys in both parties, got us in some pretty big messes. We could do a hell of a lot worse than entertain not so thin and fit guys to get us out of those messes. Because for those who love to quote a visionary who asks we judge men not by the color of their skin but the content of their character, it seems weird that they still judge the weight of that skin before they even get to their character, which makes them characters, and pathetic ones at that. Judging our leaders not by the qualities that matter, but the nonsense like this that does not. Where greatness is defined not by who you are, but how you look. You know what that is? That is racism with a scale. That might give some a tingly feeling up their leg. I just prefer they first look in the mirror themselves and stick their condescending comments up there you-know-what. But again, that is just me, isn't it? Just me. Slightly overweight, very pissed.
Sorry. Getting used to everything here.
We got it. It's coming back.
Firm
Thank
words
you,
from
Beach
Mr.
Chatters.
Cavuto. Firm words.
Yeah.
So
We were saying, I said I really like the idea of it's racism, but with a scale.
racism with a scale.
Because
Great
then
line.
that's okay, and we can eliminate bake sales, and you have to request salt and all of those things, because that's just the government knowing better than you. And in that case, it's okay.
And of course it's okay.
Yeah. If only he would follow Michelle Obama's guidelines. FLOTUS knows best. There might even be a TV series or something.
You've really got you're in some kind of a I don't know you're in some kind of a mood today. You've got some sort of strange attitude going on. It's not bad. I'm just saying it's not
Strange?
No. I'm delightful.
Attention, Beach Chatters. Does anybody have a larger shovel? Would you like to keep digging?
Well, am I? I mean, that may be right. I am monitoring the BCast chat, by the way, and
Ooh, Farmer made a lemon pie. I would like some, please. Some pie and a shovel for my co-anchor.
I had the chat up here a minute ago. It went away.
You abandoned them.
Abandoned the
You
chat.
abandoned the chat.
All right. Let's get to the current president. Stop talking about the Jindals and Palentis.
Oh, they want the waffle.
Back to the... Yes.
That's exactly right.
Get-
Maybe I will get you a waffle.
to dig myself out.
Yeah.
Well, the current president could use a wobble too. He's not doing all that well. And here his assessment of how he thinks the presidency is going.
Senator Michael Bennet, he wanted me to ask you about when you came to Colorado 2 years ago, you talked a lot about changing Washington. He wants to know, you feel you've been successful. What do you feel you need to do next?
No, I don't think there's a sense that I've been successful. I think people feel that Washington still is dysfunctional. Now, we've actually made some improvements, mainly in areas where I've got complete control. And it's my responsibility as President of the United States to make sure that I'm rising above some of that and sending a message that we've got to do better than we're doing right now.
Mr. President, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Okay, it took me just a second. Mics are up. Everything's going on. Okay, we're good. We're there. Here's the, you're watching the BCast, thebcast.com live show from the studio here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can email us, as I said, and you can instant message
Follow us on
BCast
Twitter.
Live. Let's go this way. I'm going to deal with the Soros stuff here right now. We'll come back to some of the tax cut issues. I just want to make sure we have time to explore this, because we had two facets to what we put up today, and they took a little bit of thinking and exploring to make this understandable. Is John Seidel on? Let me see if does he want to come on Skype on this? Let me see.
I'm writing him right now.
Ask him if he wants to come on Skype and talk about it. I'll play the Pam's clip, and then we'll talk about the other observation about the Soros and the party at his house last night. But we've just...
John says sure. I'll get him hooked up
while we do that.
This,
okay.
Yeah.
So the two parts of this. The idea of Soros as a puppet master, and you start exploring the connections, the 6 degrees of George Soros. So both the post that John wrote today and the video that Pam put out, they're not like the bombastic grabbers that we have sometimes put out in the past, but they do have. If you ponder them a little bit, you get to see the implications of what we're saying. This first one is interesting because it's not only George Soros and Elizabeth Warren, the Obama pick for the consumer thing. It's Van Jones was at the same event, right? So it's like it's like they're all hanging out together. So think about this.
One big fiesta.
Our theme here is financial reform and regulation. So your keywords here are guerrillas, revolution is in there, and you'll hear a few more goodies.
I come from the trenches. I've been a technical advisor to the unions, consumer groups, environmentalists, even the civil rights groups were very active in this. There was a coalition, Americans for Financial Reform, through support of people like Mr. Soros, both intellectually and otherwise. We had a band of guerrillas, not G-O-G-U-E-R. The fight now is so much of this has been pushed into the regulatory agencies, the SEC, the CFTC, the Fed, the Stability Council.
I think of the American public, we're big, right? And we're diverse, and we are slow to turn. We are not a place that moves right to revolution. We move very slowly. But I think to believe that we have not moved over the last 2 years would be a grave mistake. And let me just pick one example, and that is we've talked back and forth all day today about the fact that the House and the Senate have passed an important regulatory reform bill.
Barney Frank said last night on somebody's show that he said all the Fed is a mail drop for these guys. That he said they are going to be housed in the Fed, which we had to do for political reasons, but the Fed has no authority over them and really can't touch them in any way.
I'm all about functional independence. You know, you can call something, I don't care what name you give it. The real question is, what does it do? And it has effectively independent rule writing authority. It's got good, strong enforcement. It's got a head that will be appointed directly by the president. And it's got, one of the best parts of it, it's got independent budget. It just automatically gets a portion of the Fed's budget. And the Fed has to hand it over. So I think it's got all the indicia of being independent and strong.
You're absolutely right. The financial system
again.
had to be, you're absolutely right, because the financial system had to be saved. You could not allow it to collapse. However, we did not do it the right way. And it was a big, big mistake that is actually irreparable. We are going to pay a price for that for years, because we should have injected capital into the banks, diluting the existing capital and diluting also the unsecured bondholders. Then if there is a loss on top of it, so be it. It's well worth paying it for the sake of preserving the financial system. However, we didn't nationalize the banks. We nationalized the liabilities and we left them the equity. In Europe, the continental countries would like to use regulation to kind of diminish the importance of London. And of course, not surprisingly, the British resist that. So it's extremely difficult, even in Europe, to find common ground. So this is a big problem confronting the world, because it's not a matter of restoring the financial system. It means creating something that wasn't there, namely global regulation.
And now it's our turn. It's for them to bail us out. And I think most Americans are absolutely outraged. The bankers don't have their money, they have our money. So until we're willing to talk about where the real money is in American society and how we actually use the real money in American society to solve the real problems of the American people, I think we are headed for a political disaster. Now, if we had grabbed the financial services reform stuff and said that's a racial justice issue and struggle, it's conceivable that we could have actually broadened out the front beyond the Elizabeth Warrens and the George Soroses of the world and had a much bigger impact.
All right, that's a really strong piece. A lot of stuff in there to think about. Glenn talked about it a little bit on the radio today, but they didn't have a lot of time. And I'm sure tomorrow in Wilmington, Ohio, and Thursday it's going to be pretty busy too. And I know he's already been saying there's so much of this stuff he wants to wait until January.
Yeah,
so
just so it doesn't get lost.
They
did a lot on how much government in general tries to throw in at the last minute because people aren't paying as much attention, come the holidays and...
One of the reasons why we went ahead and put it out today was we were kind of trying to show some substance along with the post that John did, which we wanted to do today because it referred to a party that happened last night. So for timeliness sake, let me go back to Desktop Presenter to see if John was there. There. Hey, John, can you hear me?
Oh, there we go.
Excellent. So here's the setup. John and I were talking about the fact that we saw this thing that said that the newly elected governor of Minnesota was going to be at Soros's house in New York City for a fundraiser, and Bill Clinton was going to be there. And the part of this was going to pay for expenses that he had incurred because there was a recount in Minnesota. Now, we'd recently done some posts and using some of Trevor Loudon's material about the Secretary of State in Minnesota, who also supervised the recount of Al Franken. And so I was thinking about this in terms of, well, I know that Glenn had talked about the Soros backing the Secretaries of State program, the idea of getting more progressives elected to that position. And I thought, I bet there's a connection to Mark Ritchie. And so you were digging at this last night, and it didn't take long before you just found a whole lot of stuff. Ha! Right. 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 I could hear you, but people at the house couldn't, people watching in their homes and offices couldn't hear you.
I think it was planned.
It was planned.
You were silencing,
so it took me
you were silencing John.
I was silencing John, but I now have...
I'll have to say he was very animated, though.
Right.
So whatever he was saying, he was very passionate about.
So John began by saying what a pleasure it is to work with me. Okay, we didn't miss much. So just recap here. They heard me and what I said that I was saying.
Because
let's check
that's
this out.
obviously way more important.
And you were
they
saying
heard you.
Right, and you were saying it was bad for me to give you ideas like this at the end of your shift because all of a sudden the rest of the night's gone because you're just reading more and more of these links. So okay, so let's pick up here on the connections.
Okay, so what I found was that not only is George Soros a funder, a backer of the Secretary of State project, where their goal is to elect, they'll say fair,
right?
But if you read the rest of their website, it's they want progressive people to oversee elections so that they can
and everybody running the program is a progressive.
Right, and which was that too was very interesting. You go down the list of people who are running the organization, and you find out that they do have some really interesting information on there, but the stuff that they've scrubbed about these people is even more interesting. Basically, it's just everyone is connected to Soros, to
right.
Liberal and progressive causes. George Soros is a campaign contributor to the Secretary of State. The governor-elect, who the Secretary of State just oversaw the recount, is a campaign contributor to the Secretary of State, which is an elected position in the state of Minnesota.
Now, the one thing that you made clear was we weren't saying that anything was illegal or there was some smoking gun. This was just like, well, isn't that odd? Look at these relationships. Here's Soros funds the Secretary of State program. They help Mark Ritchie get elected. Mark Ritchie oversees the recounts for Franken and now for Governor Dayton. Dayton gets named governor and immediately runs off to New York City and goes to George Soros' house to get more money to pay for the recount that was just supervised by the guy that Soros helped.
Coincidences only count when it's indicting people on the right.
Right.
Because on the left, it's conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
But on the right, they are the ties that bind.
So
you know.
And I poke fun at that throughout the piece. I don't know how many times I say it in there, but after every kind of interesting revelation, I say, well, but that's just a coincidence.
Right.
Because I just have a hard time believing in the world of George Soros, who even I think Glenn has admitted he's a very smart man.
Right.
For all the evil things that he's connected with, he's a smart guy. I have a hard time believing that this kind of stuff is just all pure coincidence.
No, not all. So anyway, I just wanted to get that quick update. So thanks for joining us and explaining it. And people can go to the Blaze and read the story.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Okay.
I promise to only mute you half the time that you join us from now on. I think.
Right.
Just working our way in to giving you full time. All right. Thanks, John.
Bye.
So I don't know if anybody else will pick up on it, but it was just one of those things where I just thought, all right, let's explore this, and John did a really good job writing it up. All right, so let's. What do we have time for here? A couple of.
Well, how about the no labels party thing, which
I
I thought was actually pretty interesting.
And
then we have
on.
Rush,
right.
discussing that today. Thanks to Daily Rushbo. Cut that audio.
38 minutes past the hour right now. Welcome.
We are going to get to the Rush clip. This is just explaining what the No Labels Party is all about.
Back. Well, the middle isn't a very popular place to be in Washington right now. In fact, it can be a downright liability at times. But there's a new group that's promising to look for ways to move the country forward instead of to the right or to the left. And joining us right now, two founding members of the organization known as No Labels, Republican Mark McKinnon and Democrat Kiki McLean, which I shouldn't have even said because you guys are now being labeled.
That's right.
Welcome, by the way. Mark, first let me start with you. What inspired you to start No Labels? What is it about?
Well, we travel around the country a lot to stay out of Washington as much as possible, and when we do, we see millions and millions of Americans who look at Washington and can't believe what they see and they hear. It's so hyper-partisan, it's so poisonous, and they don't feel like it reflects them. And we know from talking to people and from research that literally a majority of America out there don't feel represented anymore. So we're trying to create a voice and a microphone for people in the vast middle of America who want a more civil dialogue in Washington.
Kiki, one thing that seems to exacerbate that problem is the primary system. I mean, you saw many referred to as centrist, Mike Castle in Delaware, for example, as well as others who are now packing up their boxes and getting ready to leave because they lost re-election. I mean, it seems like it's a tough place to be in the middle, especially in this election season?
Well, elections are tough, but here's what we do know. We know that there are millions of Americans who aren't participating in primaries. We have millions of independents that some come to engage in the general election, but not in the primaries. And so there are some states with open primaries, and this is where this really becomes a grassroots movement, because this is about things happening at home, on the ground, thousands of people across America. Where will they participate? Where will their voice be heard? And while Mark and I are sitting here with you today, there are 1,100 Americans who are coming to be with us today from all across the country, because there are reforms they'd like to see in the process.
Is one of those pushes to allow open primaries
well,
in most states?
I think that the folks who are coming in today will go to work on issues like that. What's going to help in their communities?
That's a subject for one of the panels,
Yeah, it
election
absolutely
reform.
is.
And, you know, that's one of the things we're looking at is that how did our country become so hyper-partisan?
So the mamby-pamby middle is really the place to be.
Label
I don't have a problem necessarily with always saying that moderate positions are milquetoast. I think there may be some vigorous moderates.
Well, Rush doesn't believe in moderates.
Really,
I mean, he said that, right? Like, he doesn't believe in like kind of moderate anything. That you are or you're not. It's just a way to kind of dance around your position.
Yeah. And I think that's what I was coming to try to say, which is, but ultimately, a lot of when people talk about moderates, they like to make this be like, oh, here's a person who's not a captive to an ideology, right? Here's a person who's open to ideas left and right. And that's where the problem comes in, because it's not a buffet. These things fit together within worldviews for reasons. And so you can have a panoply of ideas on the right. There are libertarians who are different than social conservatives in many ways. But I think you need to work through your worldview and know why you believe what you believe. But here's Rush attacking No Labels.
This whole thing is entirely deceitful. This No Labels business. Tea Party movement was a spontaneous grassroots movement. This No Labels movement, it's not a movement at all. It's all about top-down political operatives, ex-politicians, who are frankly irrelevant. It's a top-down effort by irrelevant political hacks to make themselves matter again. It's out-of-work political consultants who are trying to find work by establishing a new niche for themselves where they can fleece potential candidates from their money while seeking office under these auspices. But they portend something really dangerous. I know it sounds like it can't possibly happen. I know it can't possibly happen, but the point is you don't want this to ever be seductive to an increasing number of voters. And folks, there are a lot of people who want to think of themselves as smarter than everybody else. There are a lot of people who want to think of themselves as open-minded. People who decide things issue by issue, smarter than the people who are partisans. And it's a movement comes along like this, it can very easily seduce these self-important snobs, because this is a movement of snobs and snobbery. And it could be seductive for a while. It's just like when I heard the Sierra Club say in 1996 or 97 they're coming for the SUV, and I spent about an hour on that warning people. And I got laughed at. Ah, come on, Rush. You know, we really like listening to you, but sometimes you just go so over the top. Nobody's going to ever take away the SUV. These are a bunch of small, little minority, bunch of wacko activists just fundraising. Rush, they're never going to get rid of the SUV. And here we are. Yeah, and the same bunch of people went after Joe Camel. And Joe who? So, I mean, they're always out there. This is just liberalism wearing a new mask. They never go away. They're always seeking new ways to defraud people and to be deceitful. They must. They have no chance. How would the Democrat Party survive if we did away with the label, the rich? The one thing they won't do is get away with labels. That's the thing. They'll do away with labels. They'll never stop using them. Big oil, big pharma, big food. Labels.
Oh, right then.
Rush, always mincing words.
Well, and what's funny is I had not heard that clip before, and then Rush was saying kind of similar things to what I had just been saying.
You're saying.
I'm saying, great minds.
Same
Great
wavelength.
minds. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so we're down to it. Back show beginning on television, and so I was trying to think. Let's see, we've got. We're not going to have time for Bush talking about the tax cuts, and maybe not, and Paul Ryan.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people are headlining it like Bush, don't call them my tax cuts, and
right,
like, he's walking away from it. And really, his point is, don't talk about them being mine because it just makes it so much more divisive. Like I wish my name would just be taken out of it because, by adding my name to it,
it makes it polarizing.
It just fuels the fire, as it were.
So we did. We did uncover something pretty shocking today, and I'm going to go ahead and play the video.
You're not going to make me watch it. Is it the one I...
yes.
Yeah. Oh.
Now,
I'm sorry. If you're eating or drinking, I recommend just set everything down.
Right. And...
fair warning.
Here it is, and it's a little stomach turning. It is a little nauseating. So, but I feel like now that we've warned you, you may be ready.
I don't know Mark very well, but I'm glad to hear that he wears pajamas. But I don't think of you as somebody who wears pajamas. I don't. You naked with a gun.
I am. I've always gone to bed naked, but now,
that was a great cause.
The problem is now I keep pajamas by the side of the bed because the children, at some point are always coming in. And there may be I got to put my pants on, and there you go. Daddy, you got to put your pants on. You go exactly.
So why don't you just put them on before you go to bed?
Yeah, I know. But
Did we really need to know? I don't think so.
All of our beach hunters of beer. Or a lot of beer, because it could take a lot of beer to get that mental image to go away. Yeah.
But now we know.
It's bad.
Geraldo sleeps in the nude.
You didn't have to actually articulate it. Like, we just heard it. You didn't have to reinforce the message.
Listen, part of it, you got to go through the stages, You're first, you say, I can't believe, I don't think I heard that right. There's no way that Geraldo sleeps in the nude. Then you have to get to, you got to go through...
The thing was, I heard part of it, and I was like, wow, that's bad. And then we heard the whole thing, I'm like, oh, my. That's just...
By the way...
Did you see, the best part of that whole clip, though, is Gretchen Carlson's face. If you go back and watch it, it's on the Blaze.
Okay.
Just solely concentrate on Gretchen Carlson's face. And like, at one point, she just goes, like that. And I'm like, yep, now you know how we all feel. Yeah.
Yeah. I did hear somebody on the radio from Minnesota saying that you don't think that dome just collapsed.
Sorry.
Follow
it's
me.
Victor. I'm concentrating on you now. Got my attention. We're good.
Didn't he send some picture of you? Aren't we supposed to be showing that?
Mm-hmm. It's in the folder.
Aha. So the conspiracy.
I do this to myself, I don't know.
The conspiracy that I heard on the radio is that that's an older stadium there in Minneapolis, and wouldn't it be convenient if the owner of that stadium had maybe not had them clear the snow, or maybe somebody used a little X-Acto knife.
Insurance or something might pick it
up.
So,
or it sort of makes the people say, wait a minute, maybe we finally need to pay for a brand new stadium. This one is old and trash, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like Building 7 coming down at the World Trade Center. It's like pretty soon. And then
all the conspiracy theories
I was
start.
listening to Opie and Anthony started doing his Jesse Ventura voice.
Oh, my.
And saying, I know that dome cover. I'm from Minnesota, and there's no way.
Now, only if you get Jesse Ventura talking to Geraldo about sleeping in the nude in the collapsed Metrodome, you might have a clip.
Why is my doing a Jesse Ventura voice killing me?
It's a sign.
Oh, it's that way. There's no way. It was
People
only
are actually saying it's a good
inches of snow. It was covered with there was a chemical layer in between that exploded the snow down.
Exploded it down.
All right, so to finish out here tonight, there's been a little flurry of reworkings of Bing Crosby and David Bowie singing their little Peace on Earth thingamajig.
Yeah.
And Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, and Will Ferrell, who you love in Elf.
I
because
do.
you are
Seen it
addicted to
now
watching
3
it.
times this season. Yay! I'm going to have to watch it again.
They've redone this almost sort of moment by moment. It's a little bit weird. It takes a minute for the music
it has
to
Will
get
Ferrell
in.
in it.
But it does
That
have Will
kinda-
Ferrell in, right? So let's get to it. We'll say goodbye with that, and then back tomorrow
Have
with
a
a
great
full show.
night.
And in fact, I think we'll even be further along. I'm trying to put in a new mixing board tomorrow. I think the audio will be better, better and better.
Pretty sure this means that the studio is going to explode and we might not have a show tomorrow.
You know,
if you see Scott on his laptop tomorrow, you'll know why.
There-
Send reinforcements, please.
There, I will tell you that at one point yesterday, because we do have a lot of lights in here now, a circuit breaker did go, and we lost all power. So I'm hoping that was just a one-time
At least
thing.
your camera didn't go off today, and that's like, well,
Right.
you know,
Progress.
step by step.
All right, thanks for joining us,
All
everybody.
right.
See you
Have
tomorrow.
a great night, everybody.
Hello. You the butler?
Well, it's been a long time since I was the new anything.
What's happened to Hudson?
I guess it's changing.
Yeah, he does that a lot, doesn't he? Oh, I'm David Bowie. I live down the road.
Oh.
So Percival lets me use the piano when he's not around. He's not around, is he?
I can honestly say I haven't seen him, but come on in. Go ahead. Come on in.
Are you related to Sir Percival?
Well, distantly.
Oh, you're not the poor relation from America, right?
Ha ha! Gee, news sure travels fast. I'm Bing.
Pleased to meet you. You're the one that sings, right?
Well, right or wrong, I sing either way.
Well, I sing too.
Oh, good. What kind of singing?
Mostly contemporary stuff. Do you like modern music?
Oh, I think it's marvelous. Some of it really fine. But tell me, do you ever listen to any of the older fellas?
Oh yeah, sure. I like John Lennon, and the other one with the Harry Nilsson.
Oh, you go back that far, huh?
Yeah, I'm not as young as I look.
None of us is these days.
In fact, I've got a 6-year-old son, and he really gets excited around the Christmas holiday thing.
Do you go in for any of the traditional things in the Bowie household Christmas time?
Oh yeah, most of them really. Presents, tree, decorations, agents sliding down the chimney.
What?
I was just seeing if you're paying attention.
Ha ha.
Actually, our family do most of the things that other families do. Sing the same songs.
Do you?
I even have a go at White Christmas.
You do, huh?
And this one. This is my son's favorite. Do you know this one?
Oh, I do indeed. That's a lovely thing.
Come, they told me, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, our newborn king to see, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum. Our finest gifts we bring, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum. Peace on earth, can it be? Years from now, perhaps we'll see the day of glory, see the day when land of goodwill, live in peace again. So peace on earth, pum-pum-pum, when it comes. Every child must be made aware. Every child must be made to care. Care enough for his fellow man to give all the love that he can. will come true. For my child and your child too. We'll see the day of glory. See the day, the land of goodwill. Live in peace again. And peace he smiled at me for rum-pum-pum-pum. Can it be? Can it
Oh, that's a pretty little thing, isn't it?
Very nice.
All right, Bobby. You have a Merry Christmas.
It's Bowie. It's David Bowie.
And it's Bing Crosby, pal.